What if Deku killed All Might and became the god of Earth? Part 1: The Fall of the Symbol. The city of Musutafu was glowing beneath the night sky, neon lights flickered across towering buildings, cars moved slowly through crowded streets. People laughed, talked, and lived their normal lives. Because they believed something, they believed that no matter what happened, All Might would save them. The symbol of peace, the strongest hero in history. The man who carried the hopes of an entire world. But tonight, that symbol was about to fall, and the one who would destroy it was the boy he trusted the most. A boy who wanted to be a hero. Years earlier, Izuku Midoriya had been nothing, a quirkless child in a world where nearly everyone had powers. Doctors had said the same thing: you'll never be a hero. Kids bullied him, teachers ignored him. Even society itself had already decided his future. But Izuku never stopped dreaming. He filled notebooks with hero analysis. He studied their strengths, their weaknesses, their strategies, because even if he didn't have a quirk, he still wanted to save people, and one day, his life changed forever. The day everything began. A giant villain made of slime attacked the city. Heroes tried to stop it, but none of them could hold it down. Inside that monster was Izuku's childhood friend, Kutsuki Bakugo. Everyone stood frozen, even the heroes hesitated. But Izuku didn't. He ran. No quirk. No power. No plan. Just instinct. He jumped toward the monster and tried to pull Bakugo free. That reckless act caught someone's attention. Standing above the scene was the greatest hero alive. All Might. And for the first time in history, All Might saw something special in the powerless boy. You can become a hero. Those words changed everything. The power of one for all. All Might revealed his secret, a power passed down for generations, a quirk meant to defeat evil, a power called one for all. It wasn't just strength. It was the combined power of every previous user. A growing force. A living legacy. And All Might had chosen Izuku Midoriya to inherit it. For 10 months Izuku trained harder than anyone ever had. He lifted scrap metal, dragged cars, destroyed his body again and again. Because he knew the truth. This power was enormous. Too enormous. His body wasn't ready. But his heart was. And soon, Izuku Midoriya became a student at UA High School, the most prestigious hero academy in Japan. At UA, Izuku pushed himself beyond his limits. Every battle, every training exercise, every injury, he kept moving forward, breaking his bones just to unleash even a fraction of one for all. But slowly, he improved. He learned control. He unlocked new techniques. Full cowling. Shoot style. His power grew stronger with every challenge. And something else began happening. Something no one expected. The power of one for all was evolving. One night during training, Izuku had a dream. But it wasn't a normal dream. He stood in a dark void. Around him were shadows. Figures slowly emerging from the darkness. They were the previous users of One for All. The vestiges. Each one carried a piece of the power. Each one watched him carefully. You are the ninth. Their voices echoed. You carry the will of all who came before. At first, Izuku was amazed. But then, something strange happened. Among the vestiges, there was another presence. Something darker. Something ancient. A voice that didn't belong. It whispered quietly. You can become more. Izuku didn't understand it at the time. But that voice would change everything. As Izuku continued his journey, he began noticing things. Things he hadn't seen before. Villains weren't always monsters. Some were people who had been abandoned. People rejected by society. People who had never been saved. The hero system wasn't perfect. Corruption existed. Politics controlled decisions. Sometimes heroes cared more about rankings than saving lives. And then there was Tomura Shigaraki, a villain who represented everything broken about the world. Every encounter with Shigaraki made Izuku question things. Why did villains exist? Why did society create them? And most importantly, why did heroes keep fighting the same battle over and over again? Meanwhile, One for All continued changing. Izuku began unlocking abilities from previous users. Black Whip, Danger Sense, Smokescreen, FA Jin, Gishift. Powers that made him faster, stronger, more unpredictable. But every time he used them, that strange voice grew louder. You're wasting your potential. You could end this cycle. You could reshape the world. Izuku tried ignoring it. He told himself it was just stress. But deep down, part of him wondered if the voice was right. The wind blew fiercely across the rooftop of UA High School. Clouds drifted across the moon. Lightning flashed in the distance. And standing face to face on the rooftop were two heroes, All Might and Izuku Midoriya. But something was wrong. Very wrong. All Might could feel it. The power inside Izuku was unstable. Wild. Far stronger than it had ever been. Young Midoriya? All Might spoke carefully. You've been pushing One for All too far. Izuku didn't respond. His head hung low. Green lightning crackled faintly across his arms. Midoriya? Finally. Izuku spoke. You lied to me. All Might froze. What do you mean? Izuku slowly looked up. His eyes glowed with power. You said heroes protect everyone. But that's not true. All Might's expression hardened. Izuku. Heroes pick and choose who deserves saving. The wind howled around them. Izuku's voice trembled with emotion. What about the people society abandons? What about the villains who were once victims? What about the broken children who never had a hero? All Might stepped forward. You're letting doubt control you. No. Lightning exploded across the rooftop. Izuku clenched his fists. I'm seeing the truth. Inside Izuku's mind, the voice returned. Louder than ever. Do it. End the false symbol. Become something greater. Green lightning spiraled around Izuku like a storm. The ground cracked beneath his feet. All Might's eyes widened. Young Midoriya, stop! But the power was already building. One for All surged beyond control. Not 100%. Not even close. Something new. Something monstrous. Something divine. Izuku raised his fist. I just wanted to save people. His voice cracked. But maybe the world needs something else. All Might smiled sadly. Even now? He believed in the boy. I still believe in you. For a moment, everything went silent. And then the sky shattered. Detroit SMA. But the attack transformed mid-swing. The power erupted far beyond anything seen before. Green lightning exploded into the heavens. Clouds split apart. The city shook. The force of the punch created a shockwave that traveled for miles. Windows shattered. Buildings trembled. Heroes across the city looked toward the sky in shock. Because they felt it. The energy. The power. The impossible strength. And standing at the center of it all was Izuku Midoriya. When the light finally faded, All Might fell to the ground. The symbol of peace was gone. Izuku stared at his hands. His body trembled. No. I didn't mean to. But the voice spoke again. Cold. Ancient. Powerful. You have taken the throne. Inside the void of one for all. The vestiges trembled. Their power merged. Changed. Evolved. Something beyond their control was being born. The voice whispered again. Rise, Izuku Midoriya. Rise? God of Earth. Green lightning exploded across the sky. And far away, inside Tartaru's prison, a villain began laughing. Tomura Shigaraki looked up toward the night sky. The symbol of peace is dead. His grin widened. Looks like the real game begins. This is part 1 so far, now let's move on to part 2. Thank you for watching so far to our channel Sōgyō-ka, aka the Founding Family YouTube channel. Let's continue on to part 2 now, here we go. What if Deku killed All Might and became the God of Earth? Part 2, The World Without All Might. The night sky above UA High School was silent. Too silent. Moments earlier, the air had been filled with thunder, lightning, and a power unlike anything the world had ever seen. Now, there was only the wind, and the body of the greatest hero who had ever lived. All Might lay motionless on the broken rooftop, his golden hair stained with blood, his heroic smile gone forever. Standing above him was Izuku Midoriya, the boy who had once dreamed of being a hero, but the boy who now had become something else. The first realization. Izuku stared at his hands. Green lightning flickered around his fingers. His breathing was heavy. I didn't. The words caught in his throat. He slowly looked down and saw the body of his mentor, his idol, the man who had changed his life. All Might. No. Izuku took a step backward. Then another. The rooftop beneath him cracked as power leaked uncontrollably from his body. I didn't mean to. But deep inside his mind, the voice returned. Cold. Ancient. Calm. You have done what was necessary. Izuku grabbed his head. Stop. The voice ignored him. The symbol of peace was a lie. Heroes maintain the illusion. But you have broken the illusion. Images flashed through Izuku's mind. Villains crying. Cities destroyed. Heroes celebrating victories while people suffered in the shadows. The voice whispered again. The world cannot be saved. It must be remade. Inside the UA control center, alarms were screaming. Power sensors had detected something impossible. A spike of energy greater than any quirk recorded in history. Aizawa stared at the monitors. What the hell was that? The readings were insane. Energy output levels kept rising and falling wildly. Even present MIC looked nervous. That level of power, that's not human. Suddenly the communication line burst open. A security drone had reached the rooftop. The camera feed appeared on screen. And everyone froze. All Might's body lay on the ground. Blood on the concrete. And standing above him was Izuku Midoriya. Aizawa's eyes widened. No. Within minutes, the entire hero world began receiving emergency alerts. Hero agencies, government officials, military divisions. Everyone saw the same footage. All Might. Dead. Killed by his own successor. The symbol of peace had fallen. And the one responsible was the strongest quirk user alive. Panic spread across Japan. Then across the world. Because without All Might, there was nothing holding society together. The birth of fear. Across the city, people were terrified. Without All Might, crime immediately began rising. Villains sensed the shift in power. Small gangs started attacking hero patrols. Chaos began spreading like wildfire. And every news station repeated the same headline. The symbol of peace has fallen. But another name began appearing beside it. Izuku Midoriya. Some called him a villain. Others called him a monster. But a few people whispered something else. A god. Meanwhile, Izuku stood alone in a ruined district outside the city. He didn't remember how he got there. His mind felt foggy. Power surged through his body in endless waves. Every heartbeat felt like thunder. The voice returned. You feel it. Izuku clenched his teeth. This power. It's too much. Lightning erupted from his body, destroying nearby buildings. The voice laughed softly. You are no longer human. Inside the vestige world, the previous users of One for All were struggling. Their forms flickered violently. Something new had entered the quirk. Something ancient. Something powerful enough to override their wills. You are evolving. The voice whispered again. Soon, you will become the strongest being on this planet. Deep underground, inside the most secure prison in the world, a villain began laughing. Tomura Shigaraki sat chained to the floor. Guards watched nervously. He looked toward the ceiling. The symbol of peace is gone. His grin widened. Finally. For years, Shigaraki had dreamed of destroying hero society. But now, someone had done it for him. And that someone was stronger than All Might ever was. Midoriya. Shigaraki whispered. You might be exactly what this world needs. Meanwhile, Japan's strongest remaining heroes gathered for an emergency meeting. Endeavor. Hawks. Best Jeanist. Edgeshot. Mako. Everyone looked grim. Endeavor slammed his fist on the table. We must capture Midoriya immediately. Hawks crossed his arms. Capture? You saw that power. That kid killed All Might with one punch. Mako grinned slightly. Then we hit him harder. But Best Jeanist shook his head. This is not a normal villain situation. He possesses One for All. And something else. Hawks looked at the footage again. That power spike. It's still rising. A cold realization filled the room. Midoriya wasn't just powerful. He was getting stronger. Outside the city, Izuku collapsed to one knee. Pain surged through his body. His quirk was changing. Evolving. Green lightning began turning darker. Black streaks of energy mixed into the storm. The ground beneath him shattered. The sky above him began swirling. Inside his mind, the voice spoke one final time. The age of heroes is over. Now begins the age of gods. Izuku slowly stood up. His eyes glowing brighter than ever before. And far away, millions of people unknowingly watched the sky. Because something massive had just awakened. Something powerful enough to reshape the entire world. This is the end of part 2, and we like to thank you for watching, and let's get ready to watch part 3 together. We also like to thank you for watching our channel Sōgyō-ka, aka the Founding Family YouTube channel. Well, as always, hail Aurora, and let's get on to the next part. What if Deku killed All Might and became the God of Earth? Part 3, The Hunt for the God of Earth. The world had changed overnight. News stations across the planet repeated the same horrifying headline. The symbol of peace is dead. But the second headline terrified people even more. Izuku Midoriya, the most dangerous being alive. Cities across Japan were placed under emergency lockdown. Hero agencies mobilized their strongest fighters. Military forces prepared contingency plans. Because one thing had become painfully clear. This wasn't just another villain. This wasn't even a normal quirk user. Izuku Midoriya had become something far beyond human. And now, the entire world was hunting him. Inside the Hero Commission headquarters, a massive meeting was taking place. Every major hero in Japan had gathered. Endeavor stood at the front of the room. His flames burned hotter than usual. He killed All Might. The room went silent. No one argued. Because the footage didn't lie. Hawks leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Yeah, but there's a problem. Everyone looked at him. You saw the power readings. He tapped the screen behind him. Numbers flashed across the monitor. Energy outputs. Shockwave measurements. Atmospheric distortion. Hawks sighed. That punch Midoriya threw was stronger than anything All Might ever did. The room grew colder. Mako cracked her knuckles. So we hit him together. Best Jeanist shook his head slowly. No. This is not a normal villain operation. The screen changed, showing a simulation of Midoriya's power growth. The numbers kept climbing. Higher. 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 He's still evolving. Meanwhile, inside UA, Class 1A sat together in silence. None of them had slept. Uraraka's eyes were red from crying. Kirishima stared at the floor. Momo clenched her hands together. No one wanted to say it. But everyone was thinking the same thing. Deku had become the enemy. Bakugo suddenly stood up. His chair slammed against the floor. That damn nerd isn't a villain. No one responded. He just lost control. Todoroki spoke quietly. That wasn't loss of control. Bakugo glared at him. That was power. Bakugo clenched his fists. And if he's gone crazy, then I'll beat him back to his senses. Far away from the city. Deep in a destroyed valley. Izuku Midoriya stood alone. The sky above him was swirling violently. Storm clouds formed around his body. Lightning struck the ground repeatedly. But it wasn't normal lightning. It was green. Mixed with black. The energy coming from his body was distorting gravity itself. Inside his mind, the vestige world was collapsing. The previous users of One for All struggled to remain stable. The ancient voice had taken control. You are becoming something greater. Izuku gripped his head. Stop talking. The voice continued calmly. You ended the symbol of peace. Now the world will try to stop you. Visions appeared around him. Heroes attacking. Cities collapsing. War spreading. You must rise above them. Rise beyond humanity. Izuku slowly opened his glowing eyes. And for the first time, he accepted the power. Lightning exploded outward. A massive shockwave flattened the valley. The ground cracked for miles. His voice echoed across the storm. I'm done running. Deep underground. Inside the world's most secure prison. An alarm began screaming. Tartarus breach detected. Guards rushed through the corridors. But it was already too late. A terrifying presence filled the prison. Chains shattered. Cells collapsed. Prisoners screamed. And standing at the center of the chaos was the most dangerous villain in history. All for One. His distorted voice echoed through the prison. So, the boy finally awakened. He had watched everything from Tartarus. Every broadcast. Every report. Every energy reading. And he understood something the heroes didn't. Izuku Midoriya was no longer just the holder of One for All. He had become something new. Something unpredictable. All for One smiled beneath his mask. I think it's time we met. Hours later, All for One found him. High above the mountains. Standing in the middle of a storm. Izuku Midoriya. Green lightning spiraled around him like a living cyclone. All for One stepped forward calmly. You've grown impressive, young Midoriya. Izuku slowly turned. His glowing eyes locked onto the villain. You're All for One. The villain chuckled. Yes. And you? Are my greatest opportunity. All for One spread his arms. You see, our powers were always meant to clash. He stepped closer. But perhaps we can form an alliance instead. Izuku stared at him silently. The storm intensified. You hate hero society. All for One continued. And I've spent my entire life destroying it. Together, we could rule this world. For a moment, the wind stopped. Then Izuku spoke. No. All for One tilted his head. No. Izuku stepped forward. Lightning exploded around him. You misunderstand something. The ground beneath them cracked. You think you're the villain of this world. But you're not. His power surged higher. The sky itself began tearing apart. You're just part of the problem. All for One's smile slowly disappeared. All for One attacked first. A massive wave of stolen quirks erupted forward. Shockwaves. Energy blasts. Air cannons. Dozens of abilities unleashed at once. Mountains shattered. The ground exploded. But when the smoke cleared, Izuku hadn't moved. Not even an inch. All for One froze. That's impossible. Izuku slowly raised his hand. The storm answered him instantly. One punch. Just one. The resulting shockwave blasted All for One across the mountains. His body crashed through rock formations. Entire cliffs collapsed. All for One struggled to stand. For the first time in centuries, he felt fear. Izuku's voice echoed through the storm. You're not the strongest anymore. The lightning around him turned darker. More violent. You're not even close. Across the world, satellites detected the explosion. Heroes saw the shock wave. Villains felt the tremor. The strongest villain in history had just been defeated in seconds. And the one who defeated him was only getting stronger. Back at UA, Aizawa watched the report. This is worse than we thought. Hawk spoke quietly. If Midoriya keeps evolving, he might become unstoppable. And somewhere far away, standing alone inside the storm, Izuku Midoriya looked up at the sky. The voice whispered again. The world fears you now. Izuku clenched his fist. They should. Because the age of heroes was ending. And the age of gods had just begun. Thank you for watching part 3 and thank you for watching our channel Sōgyō-ka aka the Founding Family YouTube channel. Anyway, let's get on to part 4. What if Deku killed All Might and became the god of Earth? Part 4, God Deku vs the world. The world had never faced a threat like this. Not All for One. Not Gigantomachia. Not even the Paranormal Liberation War. Because this time, the enemy was the boy who was supposed to save everyone. Izuku Midoriya. The successor of All Might. The holder of One for All. And now, the being many had begun calling the god of Earth. Across the planet, governments declared the highest possible alert. Satellite networks tracked the massive storms surrounding Deku's location. Entire weather systems were being distorted by his presence. Lightning storms appeared wherever he moved. Earthquakes followed his footsteps. Scientists studying the data began to panic. One researcher spoke quietly to the Hero Commission. This isn't just a quirk anymore. The room went silent. What do you mean? The scientist swallowed. His energy output is beginning to rival natural disasters. In simple terms, Izuku Midoriya had become a walking catastrophe. If one person couldn't stop him, then everyone would try. The Hero Commission issued the order. All active heroes were mobilized. Japan's strongest fighters gathered outside a ruined city where Deku had last been detected. Endeavor stood at the front, flames roaring across his body. Mako stretched her arms, cracking her knuckles. Best Jeanist adjusted his collar. Hawks hovered in the sky. Even heroes from other countries had arrived. America, Europe, China. Hundreds of the strongest quirk users alive. And standing behind them was Class 1A. Bakugo stared at the horizon. That idiot better still be in there. Uraraka whispered softly. Deku. The sky suddenly darkened. Wind exploded across the battlefield. Thunder echoed like a cannon. The heroes looked up. A massive cyclone of green lightning was forming above them. At the center of the storm, a figure slowly descended. Izuku Midoriya. But he didn't look the same anymore. Green lightning mixed with black energy. His eyes glowed like burning stars. The air around him warped from the sheer pressure of his power. Every hero on the battlefield felt it. Fear. Not the fear of a villain, but the fear of facing something far beyond them. Deku spoke calmly. Why are you here? Endeavor stepped forward. To stop you. For a moment, Deku looked disappointed. You still don't understand. Mako moved first. She launched forward like a missile. Her kick strong enough to shatter concrete. But before she even reached him, Deku moved. No. He didn't move. He simply raised his hand. The air around Mako exploded. She was blasted backwards across the battlefield. Hawks shot forward next, feathers flying like bullets. Deku barely looked at him. A pulse of energy erupted from his body. The feathers vaporized instantly. Hawks crashed into the ground. Endeavor roared. Flames erupted into the sky. Prominence burn. A massive inferno swallowed Deku entirely. For several seconds, nothing could be seen. Then the flames split apart. Deku stepped forward through the fire, completely unharmed. The battlefield fell silent. Deku raised his hand. Green lightning spiraled around him. But something new appeared. Golden energy began forming in the center of his chest. A glowing core of power. Inside his mind, the ancient voice spoke again. You are awakening. The first stage. The form of a god. Energy exploded outward. The shockwave knocked hundreds of heroes to the ground. Buildings collapsed. Mountains cracked. The storm above the battlefield expanded across the sky. Deku's voice echoed across the world. I don't want to fight you. But if you keep attacking, I will end this. Suddenly, a voice shouted. Deku! Bakugo stepped forward. Explosion sparks igniting in his palms. You idiot! Since when do you talk like some villain god? Deku looked at him. For a brief moment, his expression softened. Then Todoroki stepped beside Bakugo. You're still our friend. We know you're in there. Uraraka stepped forward too, her voice trembling. You always wanted to save people. Please? Come back. The storm around Deku slowed slightly. For the first time, the god looked uncertain. But the voice returned again. Stronger. Colder. They fear you. They will never accept you. They will always try to destroy you. The storm exploded again. Deku's eyes glowed brighter than ever. I can't go back. Endeavor watched the scene unfold. His fists clenched. Every hero around him was injured, exhausted, terrified. And Deku hadn't even tried to kill them. He whispered quietly to Hawks. We can't win. Hawks nodded. Yeah. This kid is stronger than all of us combined. Across the world, people watching the live broadcast came to the same conclusion. No army. No hero. No villain. Not even All for One could defeat Izuku Midoriya anymore. Because the boy who once dreamed of becoming a hero had become something else entirely. Something unstoppable. Something divine. Something the world would soon learn to fear. The God of Earth. Thank you for watching part 4. And subscribing to our YouTube channel The Founding Family. Next, go on to the next part now. What if Deku killed All Might and became the God of Earth? Part 5, The Rise of the True God. The world had never been this quiet. Not because there was peace, but because there was fear. Across the planet, people stared at their screens watching the same broadcast. The battlefield where hundreds of heroes had tried to stop Izuku Midoriya and failed. The storm above the ruined city still raged. Green lightning split the sky like cracks in reality. And at the center of that storm stood the being who had defeated them all. The boy who once dreamed of saving people. Now known across the world as the God of Earth. The heroes slowly retreated from the battlefield. Not because they wanted to, but because they had no choice. Endeavor helped injured heroes stand. Hawk struggled to stay in the air. Mako wiped blood from her face. None of them spoke. Because they had all reached the same conclusion. They couldn't win. Bakugo stared at Deku in anger. You really became this. But even he understood something terrifying. Deku had held back. If he wanted to destroy them, he could have. In seconds. Across Japan, crime stopped almost instantly. Not because villains suddenly became good, but because they were afraid too. Villains watched the same footage. A boy defeating the strongest heroes on Earth without even trying. A boy who had already killed All Might and beaten All for One. Even the most dangerous criminals asked the same question. Who could stop him? The answer was simple. No one. But someone was watching with excitement instead of fear. High above the destroyed battlefield, sitting on the edge of a broken building, was Himiko Toga. Her eyes sparkled with fascination. She had watched everything. The storm. The power. The moment Deku stood against the world. Her smile widened. Wow! He's amazing. Toga had always been drawn to people with strong emotions. People who broke the rules. People who changed the world. And Deku had just shattered it. Her heart began racing. I want to meet him. Back at the battlefield, Deku floated slightly above the ground. The storm surrounding him was growing stronger. The golden core in his chest glowed brighter. Inside the vestige world, the previous users of One for All watched in silence. Something beyond them had taken control. The ancient voice spoke again. You are ready. Deku's body lifted higher into the sky. Energy spiraled around him like a galaxy. You have surpassed heroes. You have surpassed villains. You have surpassed humanity. The power inside One for All expanded violently. Lightning erupted across the clouds. The storm spread across half the country. Then the voice said the words that would change everything. You are becoming the true God. Hours later, Deku stood alone in the ruins of an abandoned city. The storm had calmed slightly. but the air around him still shimmered with power. Suddenly, he sensed someone. A presence nearby. Light footsteps echoed across the broken street. Then a cheerful voice spoke. "Hi, Izuku." Deku turned. Standing in the middle of the street was Himiko Toga. She waved excitedly. "Nice storm you made." Deku narrowed his eyes. "You're a villain." Toga tilted her head. "And you're a god." She skipped closer. Deku didn't attack. For some reason? He didn't feel threatened. Toga looked up at him with glowing eyes. "I watched you beat everyone. You were so cool." She smiled brightly. "I think I'm in love." Deku blinked. "What?" Toga circled around him curiously. "You're different now. You're not scared anymore. You're not trying to be everyone's hero." She stepped closer, almost face to face with him. "You're free." Deku felt something strange. For the first time since gaining this power, someone wasn't afraid of him. Not worshipping him. Not attacking him. Just fascinated. "Why aren't you scared?" Deku asked. Toga giggled. "Because you're beautiful." She pointed at the glowing lightning surrounding him. "You're like a storm." Then she smiled again. "And I like storms." For the first time in days, Deku almost smiled. Days passed. The world searched for Deku constantly. Heroes hunted him. Governments tracked him. But they never found him. Because Deku wasn't alone anymore. Toga stayed by his side. She followed him everywhere. Talking endlessly. Laughing. Watching the sky with him. And slowly, something changed between them. The god who terrified the world. And the chaotic girl who loved danger. One night, standing under the storm clouds, Toga spoke softly. "You know, if you're the god of this world, then I'll be your queen." Deku looked at her. The golden core in his chest glowed. "The world fears me." Toga smiled. "Good." She grabbed his hand. "Let's rule it together." For the first time since everything began, Deku felt something human again. He squeezed her hand gently. And far away, the world unknowingly entered a new era. Not ruled by heroes. Not ruled by villains. But by two people powerful enough to reshape everything. The god of Earth. And the girl who chose to stand beside him. His queen. Himiko Toga. Thanks for watching part 5. And make to give us a follow, and make sure to show us your support by subscribing to our Patreon down below for more what if stories in the future. Anyway, let's go on to the next part. And as always, hail Aurora. What if Deku killed All Might and became the god of Earth? Part 6, the king and queen of the new world. The world had changed forever. Cities were quieter. Heroes were uncertain. Villains were confused. Because the balance of power that had existed for generations was gone. No symbol of peace. No ultimate villain. No war between heroes and criminals. There was only one truth now. Izuku Midoriya ruled the skies. And beside him stood the girl who had chosen to follow him. Himiko Toga. The queen of the new world. Every news station across the globe replayed the same footage again and again. Deku floating in the storm. Lightning surrounding him. Heroes collapsing around the battlefield. Governments called emergency meetings. Military leaders studied satellite images. But the conclusion was always the same. No weapon could reach him. No hero could match him. And no prison could contain him. For the first time in modern history, humanity faced a ruler it had never chosen. but could never challenge. Far above the clouds, floating above the ruins of an abandoned city, a massive storm surrounded a towering structure. A fortress made from shattered skyscrapers and twisted metal, lifted into the sky by Deku's immense power. Lightning constantly struck the structure, creating a throne in the center of the storm. And sitting at the top was Deku. Green lightning flowed around his body like living energy. The golden core in his chest shined brighter than ever. He had become calmer, more focused, more distant. Beside him, Toga leaned against the throne lazily, swinging her legs as she watched the lightning dance across the sky. "This place is amazing," she giggled. "You really made a floating castle." Deku looked across the horizon. "I didn't make it to rule." Toga tilted her head. "But you are ruling." She smiled mischievously. "And I'm your queen." Something strange had started happening across the world. Not everyone feared Deku. Some people admired him. Many citizens had grown tired of hero society, tired of corruption, tired of endless battles between heroes and villains. And now they saw something new. Someone powerful enough to end it all. Small groups began forming, calling themselves followers of the storm. They spread across cities, carrying banners with symbols of lightning, praising Deku as the one who would bring a new world. When Toga heard about it, she laughed happily. "You're starting a religion." Deku sighed quietly. That wasn't the plan. But the world was already changing. Inside UA High School, the remaining heroes gathered for one final meeting. Aizawa stood at the front of the room. Endeavor looked exhausted. Hawks leaned against the wall silently. Class 1A sat together. The atmosphere was heavy. "We can't defeat him," Aizawa said. No one argued. Not with power. He looked at the students. "But maybe we can reach him." Bakugo crossed his arms. "You think talking will work?" Aizawa looked directly at him. "He's still Izuku Midoriya." For a moment, no one spoke. Uraraka wiped her eyes. Then she stood. "Then we go talk to him." Meanwhile, inside the storm fortress, Toga leaned against the balcony railing, watching lightning strike the clouds. "You know." She looked at Deku. "Everyone thinks you're scary." Deku didn't respond. Toga stepped closer. "But I know the truth." She gently grabbed his hand. "You're just lonely." For a moment, the storm around the fortress softened slightly. Deku looked down at her. "And you're not afraid?" Toga smiled brightly. "I like dangerous things." She rested her head on his shoulder. "And I like you." For the first time in days, Deku felt calm. The chaos inside his mind faded slightly. The ancient voice remained silent. And in that quiet moment, the god of Earth remembered what it meant to feel human. Across the planet, people began choosing sides. Some supported the heroes. Some supported Deku. Some simply waited to see what would happen next. Because one thing had become clear. The future of the world would be decided soon. Not by armies. Not by governments. But by the choices of one boy. And the girl who stood beside him. High above the world, the storm continued to grow. Lightning splitting the clouds. The floating fortress glowing in the sky. The throne of the most powerful being on Earth. Where the king of the new world sat today. And beside him, his queen, Himiko Toga. Together, they waited. Because the next chapter of this story would decide the fate of the entire planet. Thanks for watching this part. Now let's go on to the next one. right away. What if Deku killed All Might and became the god of Earth? Part 7, The War for the New World. The world had reached its breaking point. For months, humanity had lived under the shadow of a storm. Not a natural storm. Not a war. But something far worse. A single being. Floating above the planet like a living god. Izuku Midoriya. The successor of All Might. The destroyer of hero society. The one who defeated All for One. The one who defeated every hero on Earth. And now, the king of the new world. Across the planet, people had begun choosing sides. Some believed Deku was the end of the world. Others believed he was its salvation. Cities began raising new banners, lightning symbols representing the followers of the storm. Millions of people supported him. They believed hero society had failed. They believed Deku would create something better. Something stronger. Something fair. But the heroes knew the truth. Absolute power would eventually destroy everything. And so they prepared for war. The final hero alliance. Inside the ruins of UA High School. The last meeting of the world's heroes took place. The room was filled with silence. Endeavor stood near the window. Hawks leaned against the wall. Best Jeanist adjusted his gloves. Mako sat with her arms crossed. Military commanders and international heroes filled the rest of the room. And at the center of the room stood Class 1A. Aizawa looked exhausted, but determined. We cannot defeat Midoriya in a direct fight. Everyone already knew that. The footage had proven it. Missiles couldn't reach him. Quirks couldn't hurt him. Even the strongest heroes had been defeated instantly. Todoroki spoke quietly. Then what's left? Aizawa looked directly at the students. We remind him who he is. Bakugo scoffed. That nerd stopped being Midoriya a long time ago. But even he didn't sound confident anymore. Uraraka whispered softly. He saved us all once. Her voice trembled. We have to try to save him too. The storm throne. Far above the clouds. The sky twisted with endless lightning. Floating within the storm stood the fortress known as the Storm Throne. Shattered skyscrapers and metal structures had been lifted into the sky by Deku's power. Lightning constantly struck the floating city, creating a glowing crown in the clouds. And at its center sat Deku. Green lightning flowed around his body like rivers of energy. The golden core in his chest burned brighter than ever. He stared silently at the world below. Beside him, Himiko Toga lounged on the edge of the throne, swinging her legs happily. You know what's funny? She looked down at the cities below. Everyone down there is terrified of you. Deku didn't respond. Toga giggled. But I'm not. She leaned against him playfully. You're just Deku. For a moment, the storm above the fortress softened slightly. The war begins. At sunrise, the skies filled with aircraft. Hundreds of jets. Hero transport ships. Military drones. Missiles streaked across the clouds. The final hero alliance had arrived. Toga's eyes lit up. Ooh! She jumped up excitedly. The war's starting. Deku slowly stood from the throne. The storm instantly intensified. Lightning erupted across the sky. They came to stop me. Toga smiled. Good. She pulled out her knives. Let's welcome them properly. The Battle of the Storm. Endeavor attacked first. He launched through the clouds like a flaming meteor. Midoriya. A massive inferno erupted toward Deku. Prominence burn lit up the sky. But Deku didn't move. The flames split apart before touching him. The air itself bent around his body. Endeavor's attack faded like smoke. Hawk's attacked next. Thousands of feathers flew like blades. Bakugo blasted forward with explosive speed. Todoroki unleashed ice storms. Mako kicked through the air like a missile. Every hero attacked together. But it didn't matter. Deku raised one hand. And the sky answered. Lightning storms exploded across the battlefield. Shockwaves blasted heroes out of the sky. Aircraft engines failed. Missiles detonated harmlessly in the air. The battlefield collapsed into chaos. Because no one there could touch him. The Queen of the New World. Meanwhile, Toga moved across the battlefield like a shadow. She laughed as she dodged heroes. She danced between explosions. Even during a global war, she was having fun. Eventually she returned to Deku's side. She wiped blood from her cheek. That was amazing. She leaned against his shoulder. You're really unstoppable now. She smiled warmly. King of the New World. The storm softened again. For a moment, everything felt strangely calm. The ancient voice. Inside Deku's mind, the ancient voice returned. Stronger than ever before. You have surpassed them. The vestige world trembled violently. The previous users of One for All were fading. Their power merging into something greater. You are becoming a true god. Images filled Deku's mind. Empires falling. Civilizations kneeling. Worlds reshaped by divine power. You no longer belong among mortals. Deku looked down at Toga. She was smiling. Trusting him completely. Why should a god share power with a mortal? The voice echoed across his mind. Over and over. The moment the world changed. Toga grabbed his hand. When this war ends. She smiled softly. Let's remake the world together. I'll stay by your side forever. For a brief moment, Deku hesitated. Then something inside him broke. In a single motion, he moved. His hand pierced straight through Toga's chest. Time stopped. Her eyes widened. Deku. Blood drifted through the air. Heroes froze. Class 1A watched in horror. Bakugo's voice cracked. What did you do? Toga collapsed slowly. Deku held her body for a moment. Then let go. Her body fell through the clouds, disappearing into the storm below. And then? Deku smiled. Lightning exploded across the sky. Deku looked down at the battlefield. At the heroes. At his former friends. His voice echoed across the storm. You still don't understand. His glowing eyes burned brighter than ever. I am no longer human. The wind roared violently. The clouds darkened. Why should a god have a mortal by his side? Uraraka fell to her knees. Bakugo clenched his fists in rage. Todoroki stared in disbelief. Because the boy they once knew was truly gone. And the god of Earth had just proven something terrifying. Nothing mattered to him anymore. Not heroes. Not villains. Not even the one person who loved him. What just happened? Let's go on to the next part. What if Deku killed All Might and became the god of Earth? Part 8, The Fall of the God. The world went silent. For a moment. Even the storm stopped. High above the battlefield, lightning froze in the clouds as everyone stared at the sky. At what they had just witnessed. The god of Earth had killed his own queen, Himiko Toga. And he had smiled while doing it. The moment that broke everyone. Class 1A stood frozen. Uraraka's hands trembled. Tears streamed down her face. Deku. Bakugo clenched his fist so tightly his palms began bleeding. You bastard! Todoroki stared into the storm silently. Even he couldn't understand what had just happened. Because the girl who had loved Deku, who had stood beside him while the entire world hunted him, was gone. And the one who killed her was the same boy they once called their friend. The words of a god. Deku hovered in the sky above them. Lightning wrapped around his body like living serpents. His glowing eyes stared down at the battlefield. Cold. Distant. Empty. You still believe I am human? His voice echoed across the sky like thunder. I told you already. I am no longer Izuku Midoriya. The storm intensified. Wind howled across the battlefield. Cities miles away trembled from the pressure of his power. I am a god. And gods did not feel regret. The world turns. Across the planet, millions watched the broadcast. The followers of the storm fell silent. Even the people who worshipped Deku began to feel fear. Because a god who could kill the one person who loved him could destroy anyone. Governments issued emergency warnings. Military forces prepared for the worst. For the first time since Deku rose to power, the world began turning against him. But something strange was happening inside Deku's mind. The vestige world had nearly collapsed. The previous users of One for All were barely visible now. Their voices faded like distant echoes. Only one voice remained strong. The ancient voice. You are finally free. The voice echoed across the void. No weakness. No attachment. No mortal chains. Deku floated inside the darkness of his own mind. His eyes glowing. What comes next? The voice answered calmly. Now you reshape the world. But something inside Deku felt wrong. Something small. Something distant. A memory of a girl smiling. But the memory faded quickly, swallowed by the storm. The hero's last hope. Back on the battlefield, Aizawa stepped forward. His voice was calm, but serious. Everyone listened carefully. The heroes gathered around him. Endeavor. Hawks. Best Genist. Class 1A. We cannot defeat Midoriya. Bakugo growled. Yeah, we figured that out already. Aizawa looked directly at him. But we might be able to stop him. Everyone looked at him. For the first time since the war began, Aizawa revealed the truth. During the months Deku had ruled the sky, scientists had been studying his power, trying to understand it, trying to find a weakness. And eventually, they discovered something. One terrifying possibility. Todoroki spoke quietly. You found a way. Aizawa nodded slowly. A way to kill a god. The cost of victory. But there was a problem. A massive one. The weapon they had designed would destroy Deku completely. Not weaken him. Not imprison him. Not remove his power. It would kill him. Uraraka stepped forward. Her voice trembling. You're saying? We have to kill Deku. No one answered. Because the truth was obvious. There was no other choice. If the god of Earth continued evolving, the entire planet could be destroyed. And so the heroes faced the hardest decision of their lives. Save the world. Or save their friend. The beginning of the end. High above the battlefield, Deku floated silently in the storm. Lightning spiraled endlessly around him. But something strange was happening. The power inside his chest was becoming unstable. The golden core flickered. The storm grew more violent. Even Deku noticed it. What is this? Inside his mind, the ancient voice spoke again. You are still evolving. But the world will try to stop you. Deku looked down at the battlefield below. At the heroes preparing their final attack. And for the first time, the god of Earth felt something unexpected. Not fear. Not anger. But exhaustion. A quiet whisper escaped his lips. Maybe this world would be better without me. The final plan begins. Back on the ground, the heroes prepared the weapon. The only thing capable of killing the god of Earth. Class 1A stood together. Bakugo stared up at the storm. Todoroki prepared his power. Uraraka wiped her tears. Because they all understood the truth now. Their mission was no longer to save Deku. Their mission was to give him peace. Let's keep this going. Onto the next part. What if Deku killed All Might and became the god of Earth? Part 9, The End of the God. The storm had never been this violent. Lightning split the sky endlessly. Thunder shook the ground for miles. Cities across Japan trembled beneath the power radiating from one place. The battlefield where the final confrontation would happen. Because high above the ruined city, the god of Earth was waiting. Izuku Midoriya. The boy who once dreamed of becoming a hero. The boy who inherited One for All. The boy who killed All Might. The boy who defeated the world. And the boy who had just killed the only person who loved him. Now, the time had come to end his reign. The weapon to kill a god. Deep beneath the battlefield. Inside a mobile command center. The final weapon was being prepared. Scientists moved quickly around glowing monitors. Energy readings flashed across the screens. Power levels. Stability percentages. Risk calculations. And standing beside the machine were the heroes. Endeavor. Hawks. Best Jeanist. Mako. Aizawa. And the students of Class 1A. In the center of the room stood a strange device. A massive spear-like weapon made of glowing energy. It had only one purpose. To destroy the power of One for All completely. Aizawa spoke quietly. This will kill him. No one responded. Because they already knew. Uraraka wiped tears from her eyes. Is there really no other way? Aizawa shook his head slowly. If Midoriya keeps evolving, the planet might not survive it. Silence filled the room. Bakugo clenched his fists. That idiot. His voice cracked slightly. He went too far. Todoroki looked toward the storm outside. Then spoke quietly. We're not doing this to stop him. We're doing this to save him. The storm of a god. High above the battlefield. Deku floated silently. Lightning spiraled around his body. The golden core in his chest pulsed like a miniature sun. His power had grown unstable. The sky itself seemed unable to contain it. Clouds twisted into unnatural shapes. Reality itself bent slightly around him. But Deku's expression was calm. Almost peaceful. Inside his mind, the vestige world was nearly gone. The previous users of One for All had faded into shadows. Only one presence remained strong. The ancient voice. You have reached the peak. The voice echoed across the darkness. You have become everything they feared. Deku spoke quietly. And yet, I feel nothing. The voice responded calmly. That is the nature of gods. But Deku wasn't so sure anymore. Because somewhere deep inside him, a memory kept returning. A girl smiling. A girl who trusted him. A girl he killed. Toga. The god of Earth closed his eyes. For the first time since his transformation, he felt regret. The final approach. The heroes launched their final attack. Aircraft flew through the storm. Jets broke through the clouds. And at the center of the formation flew Class 1A. Bakugo blasted forward through the lightning. Todoroki froze incoming storms with massive ice walls. Uraraka floated the weapon carefully through the air. Deku opened his eyes. He saw them coming. And he didn't move. The last conversation. The heroes landed on the battlefield. Lightning flashed above them. Deku slowly descended to the ground. Standing in front of them once more. Bakugo stepped forward first. "You look terrible, nerd." Deku gave a faint smile. "I probably do." Todoroki spoke next. "Is this really how you want your story to end?" Deku looked at them. At his classmates. At the people who once believed in him. "I think this was always how it would end." Uraraka stepped forward. Tears running down her face. "You saved me once." Her voice trembled. "Let us save you now." Deku looked down at the weapon she carried. The god-killing spear. He understood immediately. The truth of the god. Inside his mind. The ancient voice spoke again. "You will destroy them easily." Deku remained silent. "They cannot stop you." But something had changed. Deku looked at his friends again. Then looked at the storm above him. Then finally spoke. "No." The ancient voice paused. "Why?" Deku smiled sadly. "Because maybe this world deserves better than me." The storm suddenly began calming. Lightning faded. Wind slowed. For the first time in months, the sky began to clear. The final strike. Deku stepped forward and placed his hand on the spear. Bakugo's eyes widened. "What are you doing?" Deku looked at him. The same quiet smile on his face. "You guys were always stronger than me." He gently pushed the weapon toward himself. "Because you never gave up being human." Uraraka screamed. "Deku, wait." But it was too late. The spear pierced through the glowing core in his chest. Light exploded across the battlefield. The power of One for All erupted outward. Green lightning filled the sky one final time. The storm shattered. Clouds vanished. And the power that once ruled the world began to fade. The disappearance of the voice. Inside the fading vestige world, the ancient voice remained. Silent. Watching. Then it spoke one final time. "So this is how it ends." The void around it shifted. Like roots growing through space. Like branches spreading across worlds. "Very well." The voice faded into darkness, leaving no trace behind. Its name. Unknown. Its purpose. Still hidden. But somewhere beyond the story of Deku. Its influence would continue. Waiting. For another world. Another hero. Another what if. Thank you all for watching our what if story. What if Deku killed All Might and became the god of Earth? Please make sure to drop a like. Hit that subscribe button. And as always, hail Aurora.
Nothing can break me.